The rematch today is on the Olympic stage and should draw a huge TV audience. You can catch the game live at noon on the USA and Peacock networks. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 invites you to join us for a book party celebrating The Covenant with Black America 20 years later. Almost 2 decades ago, the Covenant book, compiled and edited by Tavis Smiley, climbed to #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list and stayed there for weeks. The first book by a Black-owned publisher to achieve such a feat. The urgency of the issues that matter most to Black fellow citizens has only intensified, especially in this critical election year. On Wednesday evening, August 14th, 6 to 9 p.m., come meet Tavis Smiley alongside Covenant contributors including Cornel West, Connie Rice, Mark Ridley Thomas, Elisa Orduna, Tyrone Howard, and Melina Abdullah as they sign copies of The Covenant with Black America 20 years later. You can purchase your books on site and get them autographed. That's Wednesday evening, August 14th, 6 to 9 p.m. in the city of Los Angeles. Admission is free, but you must register at KBLA1580.com. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavisSmileyShow.com. That's thetavisSmileyShow.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today in our second hour. Saturday Night Live alum, Emmy Award-winning comedian, actor, and rapper Chris Redd joins us live in studio as part of the summer-long celebration of SNL's 50th anniversary. We'll also talk about Chris's Netflix show, Resurrected Rides. Got a lot of folk from SNL over the years on tap to talk to you over the summer on this program again as SNL celebrates 50 years of being on NBC. In our third hour, 2 conversations. Up first, White Women for Harris. We will speak with Christine Pelosi, DNC delegate and daughter of Nancy, on whether white women will indeed show up for Kamala Harris come November. On the B side of hour 3, a Republican mayor in a swing state endorses Kamala Harris over Donald Trump. Say what? Mesa, Arizona Mayor John Giles joins us on the B side of hour 3 today to talk about why, again as a Republican, in a swing state, no less. He is endorsing Kamala Harris over Donald J. Trump. That's on the B side again of our third hour. But in this first hour today, let's talk politics with former presidential speechwriter and current staff writer for The Atlantic, where he writes on politics, policy, art, literature, and history. David Frum has also written a couple of books about Donald Trump, Trumpocracy and Trumpocalypse. Yeah, I love those titles, right? Trumpocracy and Trumpocalypse, both bestsellers. I am pleased to welcome my friend David Frum to this program. David, how are you today, sir?
Good. It's so good to be back with you.
It's good to hear your voice again. I'm glad we have the time. There's a whole lot to to unpack. Let me just start with this. I read your stuff all the time, but the piece that you wrote for the Atlantic after the assassination attempt against Donald J. Trump, I passed around to everybody. I put it on I think I tweeted it out, posted it on social media, and I don't do a lot of this because I read so much stuff all the time. I'm not trying to gas you up. I'm just saying that piece that you wrote in the aftermath of that assassination attempt was the absolute best piece I read, and I read everything. But that piece I thought was astounding. The clarity with which you spoke, the frame that you put it in. I just thought it was a brilliant piece. Tell me more about that particular piece for those who might not have read it.
Well, we are all grateful that the life of anyone under violent attack has been spared. That's what we owe to our fellow human beings. Violence is never acceptable, and political violence is affecting everybody. Whatever you think of the cause or the action, political violence is a danger to democracy. It's a danger to freedom. We reject it. And so we are grateful that the life of Donald Trump was spared, and we grieve for the brave man who was killed trying to save his children, apparently, and we grieve for the people who were hurt. But violence doesn't change the nature of the person who is the victim of violence. Mm-hmm. Violence comes to all kinds of people, good and bad. And the horror of criminal attack on a politician doesn't change who that politician is. And it doesn't mean we all have to then pretend that that politician is somebody different from whom he is. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't erase the history that that politician himself incited violence against so many other people, some of whom have suffered the effects of the violence he incited. None of that in any way diminishes our gratitude that his life was spared, but it doesn't make us forget who he is and what he stood for.
Mm. And do you think that your fine piece notwithstanding, that we are processing it inside of that frame?
There was a serious attempt in the first hours after the assassination by the supporters of Donald Trump to use this assassination to silence people who wanted to remember the truth. Mm-hmm. And again, no one should criticize, no one should insult, no one should say anything disrespectful. So that if you got like some smart comment to make on Twitter and you're silenced from that, good. We don't need that. Mm-hmm. But if you have, in an honest way to say, but this is also the man who tried to get Nancy Pelosi and his own vice president kidnapped and maybe harmed. This is a man who's incited violence at his rallies. This is a man who's told police that he wants them to bang the heads of suspects on their squad cars when he arrests them. This is a man who laughed it off when Paul Pelosi was nearly hammered to death by an invader in his house. Laughed it off when the governor of Michigan was nearly abducted, when there was a plot to abduct and maybe harm and maybe murder the governor of Michigan. We're not silencing those things. Mm-hmm. Yeah, smart aleck remarks, silence. History, truth, don't silence.
Yeah. Just getting started with David Frum. As you can see, he's not shy. And if you did not see his piece in The Atlantic, Google his name. It's easy to find at The Atlantic. But it was, again, to my mind, the best thing I read in the hours after or since about the frame that we ought to be in when we talk about Donald Trump and this assassination attempt, which is still being investigated, still trying to figure out who, what, when, why, where, and how. We do know, according to Donald Trump at least, that the Secret Service has agreed to increase his security as he continues speaking at these rallies. And we also know, just based on what we see and hear every day, that this talk about his being some sort of messianic figure continues to grow, given that he survived that assassination attempt. By the way, David Frum, I could have said this earlier, I'll say it now. For those who've been around for a while, you recall, this is why I love presidential speechwriters. You recall George Bush and that famous phrase, the axis of evil, the axis of evil. Presidents say these things, somebody else writes these things. That phrase is iconic for a lot of reasons in our politics these days. But the phrase axis of evil, that's David Frum. He put those words in George W. Bush's mouth. That's where it came from, David Frum. He's our guest in this hour. There's a whole lot to talk about with David Frum in this hour, including, you saw the news yesterday, I'm sure, that the director of Project 2025, this Republican plan to make America great again. That's in air quotes, y'all. That's a joke. This Republican plan to do so is being talked about everywhere. Everywhere. People are talking about Project 2025. The director of Project 2025 stepped down yesterday amid some backlash from Donald Trump, no less. We now know from the Harris campaign that on Tuesday, she intends to start campaigning with her VP pick. Who is it? I don't know. Maybe David Frum knows. We do know that on Tuesday, she's going to start a 6-state swing campaigning with her VP pick. So we know this coming, obviously, between now and Tuesday. What's today? Wednesday? Donald Trump and all this drama at the NABJ. Lord Jesus. We'll talk about that in this hour. So glad to have David Frum right now on Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking.
That's what we do around here.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
Tips to help improve basic steps for building a budget in 2024. Building a budget can help you achieve and reach your financial goals. With a budget, you can keep track of your spending, avoid and get out of debt, limit overspending, pay bills on time, and build solid savings habits. What's the best way to get started? Figure out how much to set aside for expenses, like rent, mortgage, bills, groceries, and entertainment. Understanding your past financial habits can help you make the proper adjustments for your budget. Adjusting to a budget can take time as you work to find the right balance, but keep working on it. For more financial health tips, visit chase.com or stop by a local branch. This segment is sponsored by J.P. Morgan Chase & Company.
This is the story of the one. As head of maintenance at a concert hall, he knows the show must always go on. That's why he works behind the scenes, ensuring every light is working, the HVAC is humming, and his facility shines. With Grainger's supplies and solutions for every challenge he faces, plus 24/7 customer support, his venue never misses a beat. Call quickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Ugh, I've been feeling so sluggish and just kind of blah.
Been there. That's why I take Align yogurt-coated probiotic fruit bites.
But I suppose they taste blah.
Actually, they taste delicious. It's an apple blueberry flavored center covered in a yogurt coating and is infused with probiotics to help support a healthy gut. They come 5 in a pouch. I just toss one in my bag and go.
Toss one in my bag?
Ha, get your own.
New Align yogurt-coated probiotic fruit bites from the makers of the #1 doctor-recommended probiotic brand. Find them in the digestive care aisle.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and David Frum of The Atlantic, who I'm pleased to have on this program as we talk. David Frum from The Atlantic. Thank you. David Frum from The Atlantic. I'll try that again. Who I'm pleased to have on in this hour. Again, a lot to talk about with David. Let me start with this, David. I mentioned a moment ago that the director of Project, I guess we lost David on the line. That's why I was here. 2 days in a row. One more day of starting out a show with drama, and I will have struck out. Such is the nature of live radio. We started with a bunch of drama yesterday. We're starting with drama again today. Lord have mercy on my soul. Anyway, I'm Tavis Smiley. Our guest, when we get him back on the line, is David Frum, staff writer for The Atlantic, former presidential speechwriter. I was saying moments ago, he's the guy that coined that phrase, axis of evil, that came out of President Bush's mouth, that everybody was talking about then, and frankly still make reference to when you talk about that particular region of the world. I'll ask David as we move through this hour whether or not he thinks that axis of evil has shifted. You saw the news yesterday of Israel striking Hezbollah inside of Lebanon yesterday. There are concerns, even as we speak right now, that this war in the Middle East is about to widen. And so we'll ask David as we move in this hour about that term axis of evil then, and how he views that axis of evil now. Is it still the same axis Again, a great deal to talk about. I think we have David back. David, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
I hear you perfectly.
All right, there we go.
So can I say one thing before we talk? You didn't put the writer's role is helping the president to speak his best self. And any writer who thinks the writer's in charge and is telling the president what to say needs to look for another line of work. Because you're like the president's lawyer, maybe, or even the president's makeup artist.
Yeah.
Your job is to make the president be his best self, but you're not putting yourself in his place, because that, if you think that, you just, as I say, you need to think for another line of work. And George Bush was a man of very clear ideas, strong beliefs, strong faith, and he told us what he wanted to say.
Nope, I received that, and I love the modesty. David still wrote the words. I ain't mad at David. I'm not being snippy about this or flippant. I take his point. That's the David Frum that I know. I expect that kind of humility from him. But again, he's a major writer, and I'll leave it at that. His point is made. My point is made. We will move on. But I respect you, David, for saying that. Now, to the issue I was trying to get to. Project 2025, the director of this effort stepped down yesterday amidst some backlash from Donald Trump. For those who hear me say that and don't understand why a guy who's pushing an uber conservative agenda would step down after a backlash with Donald Trump, isn't that what Donald Trump wants? Isn't Donald Trump advancing all the things on the list of Project 2025? Why did this guy step aside?
Well, look, I've been close to a lot of presidential transitions. So the United States government provides money to each of the two major campaigns a year out. So a year before, as soon as Barack Obama is the Democratic nominee, as soon as John McCain is the Republican nominee, they get public money, millions of dollars, to start setting up a transition. So they're ready should either of them win. And they rent space in office buildings. They have staffs and they use public money to get ready what their administration would look like. So they're ready to, as close as you can be to being ready to go. And that's how it was, in 2000 with Gore and Bush. That's how it was in 2004 with Kerry and Bush, in 2008 with McCain and Obama, and so on. Romney. It's a big thing to be ready on day one. Now, Trump has always been chaos, pure chaos. So this Project 2025 was a project by a very wealthy conservative think tank in Washington, D.C., Heritage Foundation. They have a budget of $100 billion a year to do that work. And you know why? Because Donald Trump never did it. He didn't do it in 2016. He didn't do it in 2020. He's not doing it now. So that is the Trump transition. So he can say about it what he likes. But who's going to be head of the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation if there's another Trump presidency? Donald Trump doesn't know. Who's going to be on the Federal Energy Commission? He doesn't know. Who's going to be Postmaster General? He doesn't know. So but there's all those people are going to need jobs. What's going to happen with the Indian Healthcare Service that operates in the West? He doesn't know. Someone has to know. Mm-hmm. So it's not like you can say, oh, these guys, I don't know who they are. He has no plan for anything except watching TV, taking credit for other people's work, and stealing, and payback. That's his agenda. But the government is going to have to continue. Someone has to figure out how it's going to work, and it's not the Trump campaign. It's the Heritage Foundation and Project 2025, whatever stuff Donald Trump says about them on Twitter.
Mm-hmm. How do you think this story tracks, though, that this guy running Project 2025 literally stepped down?
So it's a weird thing to say. This guy who doesn't take orders from me will quit tomorrow or else. And he says, aye, sir. Yes, I will quit tomorrow or else.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't take any orders from you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Like, if Donald Trump told you to quit your job, what would you say?
Yeah. Yeah. This is family radio, so I can't say what I'm thinking, but yeah.
But you would say, you'd say mild. You'd say no, and it wouldn't be no, sir. It would just be, no at best. This guy quit when Donald Trump told him to quit. So who's the boss?
Yeah. No. I take your point. I'm looking at just running through a number of issues here in this hour with David Frum, a staff writer for The Atlantic. There's a new Reuters poll that shows that Kamala Harris has a 1-point lead over Trump. I mean, these things are all within the margin of error. And there are other polls that show that she's tightened the race. I don't see anything that suggests to me that Donald Trump has expanded his lead, the 6-point or so lead he had over Joe Biden when Joe Biden announced he was standing down and passing the torch to Kamala Harris. But every poll shows, every study, every survey I've read suggests to me that she has closed that gap with Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, that is. But this poll suggests from Reuters that she has a 1-point lead over Donald Trump. Again, I don't take these things too seriously. They're all within the margin of error, plus or minus. But I do believe in polls that show us a pattern, and it's far too early. She's only been the presumptive nominee for, a week or so. It's far too early to call this a pattern. But these polls are, as I said a moment ago, showing a tightening of the race. And here's one that shows her with a 1-point lead, and it's Reuters. And so we all respect the integrity of Reuters. So my broad question, David, is how should we read these polls and what they're broadly saying to us right about now?
Well, that's a great question. Let me tell you how I read it.
Okay.
I think that the two parties are not similar entities. The Republican Party is a party of maybe 3 big pieces, and the Democratic Party is a party of lots and lots of little pieces. So the 3 big pieces are people who love Trump, people who don't like Trump but hate the Democrats, and people who are up for grabs. Donald Trump has always taken the first 2 pieces, people who love him and people who don't love him but hate the Democrats, and held them together. And he's always thrown away the third piece, people who are up for grabs. The Democratic Party is made up of lots and lots and lots of different pieces. And the challenge for a Democratic nominee is to pull them together into a coherent picture. And that's, for Democrats, that's never easy. If I say the Republican base, you know what I mean. God, guns, barbecue, you know what I mean. But if I say the Democratic base, who am I talking about? Am I talking about the church ladies who listened when Jim Clyburn endorsed Joe Biden? Am I talking about the college kids who knocked on doors for Elizabeth Warren? Am I talking about trade union guys? Am I talking about school teachers? They're all different, and they all want different things, and they don't always necessarily get along so well. There's no one Democrat. They're important, like, or maybe another way to think. The Republicans are like an old-fashioned city with a single downtown, and the Democrats are like Los Angeles with lots of downtowns. And you have to so pulling them together. And what was happening with Biden was because of his health, he was not doing the work to pull Democratic Los Angeles together into one city. And just when we talk about energy, it's not just the energy of the supporters. Harris is doing things like calling the head of the UAW. And so I know you were supposed to get a call after Biden's debate and you didn't get one, and you're mad because it makes you look unimportant to the people who trust you. I'm calling you right now. And she's doing that to 100 other things. There are people who needed calls. There are donors who needed to have a picture taken. There are volunteers who needed to be thanked for their hard work. That wasn't happening, and now it's happening.
Speaking of making phone calls, let me pivot to this story of Donald Trump, and Kamala Harris. There's a Kamala Harris angle to this as well, and the NABJ. So this NABJ, the National Association of Black Journalists Convention, convenes today in Chicago. We'll be in Chicago again in August for the Democratic Convention. So Chicago got it going on. Everybody going to Chicago this summer. So the NABJ, the Black Journalists in Chicago, starting today through Sunday. So let me just read a few paragraphs from this particular article to set up what's happening in Chicago. I'm reading now from Block Club Chicago, and this sort of sets the phrase, and then David and I will talk about it. Again, there's a Kamala angle here, although the headline right now is all the drama about Donald Trump appearing in front of black journalists today in the city of Chicago. Former President Donald Trump is set to attend Wednesday's kickoff celebration for the annual convention for black journalists, sparking a firestorm from reporters questioning who decided to give the controversial candidate a platform and how the move aligns with the vision for the conference. NABJ leaders emailed members Monday evening to announce a Q&A event with Trump scheduled for Wednesday afternoon. The Republican presidential candidate will answer questions about the most pressing issues facing the black community, according to the announcement sent out to NABJ members on Monday. There were 3 persons who were slated to moderate this conversation: ABC News correspondent Rachel Scott, Harris Faulkner, anchor of the Faulkner Focus, and co-host of Outnumbered on Fox News, and Kadia Goba, who is a politics reporter with Semaphore. So three black women, were set to moderate this conversation this afternoon with Donald Trump. And then the debate broke out. National and local reporters started blasting this decision on social media, questioning the timing, David, of the announcement so close to the convention start. And a convention dedicated to uplifting black media members, now potentially drawing a national crowd and protesters, as it has, while spotlighting a figure who helped to coin the phrase fake news. The convention's theme, by the way, David, this year is Winds of Change, Journalism Over Disinformation. That's the theme this year. Winds of Change, Journalism Over Disinformation. And then somebody invited the king of disinformation. I'm not reading now. This is Tavis commenting. Somebody invited the king of disinformation to appear at this conference on the first day. We're told, I tell you there's a Kamala angle here. The vice president and presumptive Democratic nominee Kamala Harris, we are told, was invited, as was Donald Trump, for an in-person panel. But the NABJ was told that Harris's schedule could not accommodate the request. So David's talking earlier about all these calls that Kamala is making to do the things that Joe Biden's energy did not allow him to do. But when the NABJ calls, the black journalists call, Donald Trump says, yes, I will be there. Kamala Harris says her schedule can accommodate the request. Now, the NABJ does this every 4 years. Whenever there's a presidential election, during their convention, they always invite the nominees of the major parties to appear at the convention. There are a number of ways to read this, and I'm going to go back and forth with David here in a moment about the ways that I read this. Yesterday, I got a bunch of phone calls from national media asking me to appear to talk about it. I turned everybody down yesterday because I need to learn more about the whole backstory. I know a bit more, and I may do a couple of national TV interviews tonight about this. We shall see. But just broadly speaking, David, just tell me top line what you make of this story, and then I only got about a minute right now. When we come forward, we'll spend some time sort of unpacking this because there are a bunch of layers to this on the Trump front, on the Kamala front, on the black media front, on the national media front, on the fake news front. A lot to unpack here, but give me your initial thoughts about this story, David Frum.
Well, two things. This is not the National Association of Black Pediatricians.
Mm-hmm.
This is not the National Association of Black Ministers. This is the National Association of Black Journalists. If they can get a Q&A with El Chapo, they would take it. So why wouldn't they take Donald Trump?
Yeah. The question, I guess the question is not whether or not they should take him. The question is, and that's one question. We'll unpack that. I received that. The question, I think, in advance of that, though, is whether or not Donald Trump should have been invited.
Yeah. Journalists?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
If El Chapo would come, would you have some questions for him? I think you would.
Yeah. But if your theme is, trying to push past disinformation, why would you invite the king of disinformation?
Your theme is we're journalists. We want this story, and we don't. And we're prepared to. We're going to sit there in the car on the stakeout night. We're going to eat bad food. We're going to get rained on, and we're going to talk to the guy who's running for president. If you want a glamorous, comfortable job, if you want to talk to nice people all the time, be a pediatrician.
There you go. I hear where David's going, and I can just tease you with this. My point of view is not that dissimilar from David Frum's. We'll talk more about it and a great deal more when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know? The United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time. Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, Minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Vice President Kamala Harris is getting the support of a couple of rap stars. The Democratic presidential candidate held a campaign rally in Atlanta, Georgia Tuesday that was attended by about 10,000 supporters and featured African-American rap stars Megan Thee Stallion and Quavo. Another round of student debt relief is being announced by the Biden administration. The Department of Education says beginning tomorrow, it'll start emailing borrowers who have at least one outstanding federal student loan to let them know about potential upcoming relief. The United States continues to lead the overall medal count at the Paris Olympics. Team USA added 6 more medals on Tuesday, including in the women's gymnastics team all-around final. The U.S. now has a total of 26 medals. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. Blindster is a family-run business that began in 2010, and we've sold millions of custom blinds, shades, and shutters and received over 100,000 five-star reviews. Don't hire an expensive pro. Do it yourself and save big at Blindster.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The U.S. men's Olympic basketball team is back on the court today in Paris. Second-round matchup against South Sudan, a country that got its name and independence only 11 years ago. Do not sleep on the players from this small African nation. There are several players on the South Sudan roster with NBA and NCAA experience. South Sudan point guard Carlik Jones was the G League Player of the Year last season. They've got an 18-year-old 7'2" center named Kaman Malouch who's going to Duke in the fall. LeBron's agent Rich Paul has already introduced himself to Malouch. These two teams have played each other already. In an exhibition game July 20th in London, South Sudan lost by only 1 point. The rematch today is on the Olympic stage and should draw a huge TV audience. You can catch the game live at noon on the USA and Peacock networks. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
If we're the ones disproportionately impacted by these climate catastrophes,
Why should we be silent?
turning up the volume all year long on the climate conversation for KBLA Talk 1580.
We must understand the politics of our community, and we must know what part politics play in our lives.
Questions about black voters, their disengagement, lack of information, and support or lack thereof for Democratic candidates have once again taken center stage as Democrats, Republicans, and independent candidates compete for this critical voting bloc. Will black voters abandon Democrats in this election, move historic numbers of votes toward the Republican nominee, or will they continue a decades-long trend of overperforming for Democratic candidates up and down the ballot? The stakes have never been higher for Black America. Tune in to KBLA's new show, The Black Pack, hosted by veteran political strategist Adrian Shropshire, every Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. for a breakdown of the issues, rhetoric, polling, and more this election year. It's The Black Pack with Adrian Shropshire, Fridays from 4 to 6 p.m. exclusively on KBLA Talk 1580.
You've got a Pepto predicament, Beach Bum.
Hey, we're heading down to the beach. You coming?
Yeah, Dad. You coming?
I had a little too much to eat at the resort buffet. I need a minute.
Oh, you overdid it. And now your beach vacation is giving you belly waves. Undo it with Pepto.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Pepto Chewables provide fast 5-symptom relief so you can get back to making memories.
Let's go, Dad!
When you overdo it, undo it with Pepto. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Did you know your life insurance is an asset you can sell? I'm Jay Jackson, CEO of Abacus Life. For almost 20 years, Abacus has been purchasing life insurance policies from seniors just like you. And at abacuspays.com, we've created a free policy value calculator so you can find out the worth of your policy in just seconds. There are no fees and no obligations. Get real value from your life insurance when you need it with Abacus. Learn more at abacuspays.com.
It's been said that when someone you love has Parkinson's, you have Parkinson's.
The Parkinson's Foundation knows that the disease doesn't just affect the diagnosed. It affects everyone who supports and helps care for them.
If you have questions, the Parkinson's Foundation has answers.
We can help you understand the disease
and give you tips for living a better life.
Find your answers at parkinson.org or call 1-800-473-4636. The Parkinson's Foundation. Better lives together.
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
When you're rolling Charmin, ultra soft on the party. This is more, so roll it back, everybody. Charmin's irresistibly soft and hella nice. The grip is always soft. It's our party vibe. She's crushing it, please, so our cheeks feel flat. So what? Everybody wanna touch the sky.
Charmin Ultra Soft is irresistibly soft and more absorbent, so you can use less. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
Sounds different, huh? This is Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and David Frum, former speechwriter for President George Bush and staff writer for The Atlantic. Pleased to have him on this program. David, we were talking moments ago, as you know, about this NABJ drama involving one Donald Trump. And it raises all kinds of questions for me. I heard your point of view, and again, as I said, mine is not too dissimilar from yours. If the guy is running for president, and it is your policy at your convention every 4 years during presidential races to invite the major candidates, then why would this year be any different, number one? Number two, it is troubling for me that he would be invited and then all this hell break loose. I mean, if you invite someone, they have a right to speak and be heard. But why invite them and then, start rethinking your decision to invite? Of course, as I read this story, many of the rank and file members of NABJ said they were unaware that Donald Trump was being invited until they got this letter Monday night telling them he'd be there on Wednesday to answer tough questions about tough questions that matter to black people. Even that doesn't surprise me because there's a lot of negotiating oftentimes to get folk at these conventions. As I said a moment ago, Kamala Harris told NABJ that she couldn't get there. So there's always negotiation. I've done this a number of times in my career, so I know the negotiations that go on trying to get major candidates to show up, and sometimes it happens at the last minute. So they found out. So they found out Monday night, so it is what it is. I take David's point. I don't disagree. Again, that if you're running for president, why not be grilled? Why not stand or sit to answer some tough questions? And yet, I understand those who make the argument, David, that this is a guy who keeps being given audiences, keeps being given opportunities to spread disinformation. So why would you invite someone who you know is going to spread more disinformation? If you think and believe that's bad for the democracy, why give him yet another platform? I'm sympathetic to that argument.
Well, look, I get it. Look, some of the people in this association write about sports.
Right.
Some of them write about art. Some of them, are on the education beat. So they have, but remember, some of them are political reporters.
Sure.
And I think one of the things that may be going on here is the people who write about sports say, I don't want to be in the room with this guy. And the political reporters say, sorry, that's my job. I don't get to talk only to people I like. If I wanted to meet nice people, I'd have listened to my mother's advice and gone to med school. Instead, I took the grubbiest profession there is. Mm-hmm. And you talk to gangsters, you talk to dictators, you talk to terrorists. You talk to all kinds of people. Can I say something about the Kamala Harris part of this?
Sure.
Unlike Trump, the vice president has a job. And just because of the nature of the transition that is going on here, it's a little bit more than the normal vice presidential job that she's got. Mm-hmm. Because, we've got a president who's of limited energy. She's probably holding down a lot of the fort. So she can't go everywhere and do everything the way she could, the way Donald Trump could, or the way someone who didn't have a day job would do. And that's something that people also need to keep in mind about what is realistic here, that she's got the same 24 hours in her day as anybody else. I assume she has to sleep sometime. And so, and she's the vice president of the United States.
Yep. Let me ask you, as my friend, to stand down for just 30 seconds and let me do this so I don't get you in trouble, because there's another side to that argument. And because I'm African American, I've been in this field for a long time. I can opine on this, I think, pretty well. So there has been for decades now. I mean, for ad nauseum, ad infinitum, there has been this feeling by many inside of the black press that we are oftentimes taken for granted. We are ignored, and not just the black press, but even in black-owned media. I'm sitting in a radio station right now here in L.A. Where we run and operate this thing, right? I'm on stations right now all across the country, some of which are owned by African Americans. There's other black media, of course, that we could talk about. The point is that when it comes to these presidential races, particularly as it relates to Democrats, Republicans just flat out ignore us most of the time, which is interesting that Donald Trump would actually show up in Chicago. But Republicans tend to ignore black voters. Donald Trump is going to Chicago today, or in Chicago today, precisely because he understands that he can siphon off, or believes or hopes that he can siphon off a significant slice of black voters. I've said many times, in that regard, I'm glad to see black voters in play in this election in ways they haven't been. Even as I am not a fan of Donald Trump, I love to see black voters in play, that black voters matter, that they're trying to get our votes. Broadly speaking, that's a good thing, the disinformation campaign notwithstanding. But here's the point, David, that oftentimes, I'm just going to call a spade, oftentimes when you have African-American candidates, they will themselves ignore, exploit, take for granted their black audiences because they believe they have those black votes in their pocket. And it doesn't feel good when the king of disinformation agrees to show up and you can't show up. Everything she goes to, she has to make a decision. Her schedule is busy. You're right. She's the vice president. You're right. She's holding down the fort. You're right. Can't disagree with anything you said. But there are decisions that she will make to go certain places and not other places. But there is another side to this story where people start to feel that you're taking them for granted by not coming to speak to them when you show up in other places. That's a real feeling for a lot of people.
Well, I'm 2 points here.
Sure.
I say this, by the way. I knocked on doors for Ronald Reagan. I remain a registered Republican. I worked with George W. Bush. I voted for McCain in 2008, Romney in 2012. So I come from a different quadrant of the political universe here. Mm-hmm. 2 observations. The first is, when you talk about the black vote, let me tell you a story. Why did Mitt Romney, why was he certain he was going to win the election in 2012? Romney's a science guy. He's not someone who goes by feeling. Mm-hmm. So they had incredible data that showed support for President Obama was down in every group you mentioned: young people, middle-aged people, old people, whites, Latinos, men, women, every group. Now, they knew his support was not down among black voters, but they also knew that in 2008, Obama had delivered record-breaking turnout among black voters. Mm-hmm. And the Romney people, who were smart, who were scientific, said, look, that's it. He's at 100 already. He got the highest turnout of any candidate among black voters. It can't go up from there. So we know he's down in every group. We just believe he's maxed out with black voters. The math says he has to lose. They got one thing wrong, which is it turned out that black voters were not at 100 in 2008. They actually turned out in greater numbers in 2012 and 2008, and that was Obama's margin of victory. And he was down in every group. But because of increased black turnout, that saved him. So when you talk about the black vote, it's not like there's a number and you can just predict it. Mm-hmm. It's not the percentage. The percentage is what it is, but the denominator matters too. And one of the things that is going to be very important in 2024 is do black voters turn out in large numbers, medium numbers, little numbers?
Right.
And it's not a constant. It's not like there's some constant thing that can say this is what you get. You can count on it like some kind of income on a U.S. savings bond. It's a moving figure too.
Yeah. No, I get that. My only point was that, again, as a member of the black media, or a person who's black who's in the media, I know what I'm telling you when I say, just in a conversation the other day with some of these people, that black-owned media have to fight harder for campaign dollars. So Democrats know they can't win without black voters, but I'm telling you again, not what I heard, what I know, that black-owned media has to fight and yell and scream and cuss and pray to try to get ad dollars spent on black-owned media. This is not a new story. And so there is this sense in which people feel put upon when you have to fight for ad dollars, when you have to beg you to show up. And I am certain, let me be very clear about this. I'm not faulting the vice president for not being able to be everywhere at one time. I get that. She can't appear everywhere. I'm just telling you that there is another slice. There's another side of the story that people do in fact feel put upon when you can show up at other places, but you can't show up in front of them. That's real, and it's as real as rain. Roll your eyes if you will. It's as real as rain. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
From Lamert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well-trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month. If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Tavis is like George and Wheezy. He's moving on up. Last year, Tavis was number 45 on the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important radio talk show hosts in America. Wait for it. Wait for it. The 2024 list was recently released, and Tavis has jumped to number 33 on the list of the nation's most important talkers, making him the highest-ranked African-American on the coveted roster. Congratulations to Tavis Smiley from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580. We've got you black.
Febreze Fabric Talk. Hey, it's me, your couch. Today's my favorite day of the week, Febreze Fabric Spray Day. The occasional deep cleans are nice, but in between, you know I'm needing a refresh. Ooh, here she comes with the Febreze Fabric Spray. Oh yeah, spritz them armrests. Don't be shy. Nothing like a good spray down to get me smelling so fresh and clean. Don't forget my back. Nice. Febreze Fabric Spray. It's just that easy. Now we can both breathe happy. Febreze. La 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 la.
Looks like Bobby needs a ride again.
Grab the keys. Let's take our auntie to the swap meet. Grab the keys.
Whether you're giving rides or hauling gear, do it all in a Chevy SUV. Head to your local Chevy dealer, where well-qualified buyers get 1.9% APR on all 2024 Silverado 1500, Blazer EV, Equinox, Trailblazer, and Colorado models. Chevrolet. Together, let's drive.
1.9% APR for 36 months. Monthly payment is $28.60 for every $1,000 you finance. Example down payment 17.0%. Must finance with GM Financial. Some customers may not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 7/31/24.
Ready to re-examine your assumptions and expand your inventory of ideas? More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
More of Tavis Smiley and David Frum coming your way right about now. So, as I mentioned a moment ago, Kamala Harris, for whatever reason, could not make it to Chicago to appear in person. She did offer to appear virtually, but could not be there in person. But she has challenged Donald Trump to a debate. So she can't get to Chicago for an ABJ, but she will show up anywhere, any place, anytime to debate Donald Trump. Here's what she had to say about that part.
So the momentum in this race is shifting. And there are signs that Donald Trump is feeling it. You may have noticed. So last week, you may have seen, he pulled out of the debate in September he had previously agreed to. About that. So he won't debate, but he and his running mate sure seem to have a lot to say about me. don't you find some of their stuff to just be plain weird? Well, Donald, I do hope you'll reconsider to meet me on the debate stage. Because as the saying goes, if you've got something to say,
That's how you tee it up. Now, that's how you do it. David Frum's response when we come forward in our remaining moments with him on Tavis Smiley.
Unapologetically progressive. Unapologetically black. You're tapped into Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
Finding a path to a meaningful career, one where you're making an impact and making enough money, it can be tough. There's one path, though, that many young adults are landing on that leads them to careers where they can work outdoors, protect our environment, take on climate change, and get paid while they train. It's the California Conservation Corps. You just have to be 18 through 25 years old to enroll, or a U.S. military veteran through age 29, and you have to be a California resident. That's it. There's no education requirement, no employment history needed. Some Corps members need to finish up high school. Others are college grads. But during their 1 year of service, all CCC Corps members can earn the work experience and certifications needed to become a wildland firefighter, forestry technician, install solar, or build trails in our state parks. Learn how you can enroll at ccc.ca.gov. Do this for you. Become the person you want to be through the California Conservation Corps.
Who do you trust to get at the truth? Tavis Smiley. That's who. The conversation continues right now.
It does indeed, for the next 5 minutes at least, with our friend David Frum, staff writer for the Atlantic magazine, who I'm pleased to have on this program. David, what do you make of, not what do you make, what do you think would come of a debate? My sense is if there's one, there'll be one. I don't know that we'll get 2 or 3 out of Harris and Trump, but maybe one. What do you expect would happen or will happen if they ever meet on a debate stage?
Donald Trump loves the theater of domination, and he tried that on Hillary Clinton by getting too close to her in 2016. He tried that on Joe Biden by talking through him in their debate in 2020. And Kamala Harris is going to need a plan for when and if he tries to do that. Now, the other thing he may try is, knowing everyone expects that, he may try to go nice go soft. And that's what he did in his first debate with Biden. So she's going to need a plan for that, too. It's going to be a tough thing to be a woman candidate running for president. Women have special advantages and special disadvantages in politics.
Yeah.
And whatever you say about it in public, she needs to be surrounded by psychologists and experts who will speak in a way without euphemism, without saying, like, this is bad, so it can't be true. Some things are both bad and true, and you need to deal with them, whether you like them or not, about the way the human mind works.
Yeah.
And that's, by the way, true of people of all races. There are big gender gaps,
Yeah.
not only among white voters, but among Latino and black voters. And those are realities, and politics has no pity for people who won't adjust to reality.
No, it's one of the smartest things I've heard on that particular topic, and I was literally in conversation about this yesterday, so we don't disagree on this. There's going to be a lot of thought put into how she handles this. I believe she can be successful, but it's going to require some real drill down, as you said, with psychologists and other experts, because here's the frame that you're in. She is a woman, and there are advantages and disadvantages to that, as you said. And I am concerned about how some voters will see this black woman talking to a white male, and that whole notion, racist as it may be, that you're not you're getting out of your lane, you're not in your place as a black woman talking to a white male that way, and we know racism exists in this country, and so that frame is real. On the other hand, you got Donald Trump, who has to be careful about not disrespecting this woman across the stage from him, and the misogyny and the patriarchy and all that makes up who he is anyway. So both are fraught with some serious challenges of how to navigate a moment. You got two white males on stage, you don't have those issues. But a black female and a white male, there are all kinds of other issues that have to be navigated beyond the obvious issue of the debate itself. And so David Frum is right. I assume that Kamala and team are smart enough to know that, but there are a whole lot of meetings they need to have about how to navigate that moment. We've never had a black woman debating a white male for president of these United States, and there are all kinds of issues that have to be navigated in that process. I close with this, David, from the 9 seconds I have. And I was literally reading a piece about this last night, which is fascinating to me. But the new word for Democrats is weird. That is the word. Everybody's using it. Candidates are using it. Surrogates are using it. Rachel Maddow wore it out last night. That's the new word, weird. I've got commentary about that. I ain't got time to get into it in 60 seconds. But if that's the best Democrats can do, then God help you. But what do you make of the use of the word weird? That's the buzzword, weird, David Frum.
I'm going to quote someone I saw on Twitter who had a great line about this. She said, there's weird as in he has a huge stamp collection, and there's weird as in you put your hand over your drink when he's standing behind your back. And that what weird here is code, not for unusual, not for different behaviors, not for some erratic, something out of the ordinary. Weird means a guy with an attitude and demeanor that women find threatening at some deep psychological level, because women know that men can be, obviously, I've been married for 37 years, women and men can be helpmeets, but men can also be a threat to women.
Yep. Is weird a word? You're the speechwriter here. You're the staff writer at The Atlantic. Is weird a word that will work?
Well, just look at how the howls of pain coming from the Trump side. That tells you what works.
Yep. Fair enough. I'll leave it there. David Frum, good to have you on the program. We'll do it again, my friend. All the best to you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Vice President Kamala Harris is getting the support of a couple of rap stars. The Democratic presidential candidate held a campaign rally in Atlanta, Georgia Tuesday that was attended by about 10,000 supporters and featured African-American rap stars Megan Thee Stallion and Quavo. Another round of student debt relief is being announced by the Biden administration. The Department of Education says beginning tomorrow, it'll start emailing borrowers who have at least one outstanding federal student loan to let them know about potential upcoming relief. The United States continues to lead the overall medal count at the Paris Olympics. Team USA added 6 more medals on Tuesday, including in the women's gymnastics team all-around final. The U.S. now has a total of 26 medals. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
It's Mattress Firm's semi-annual sale and clearance. Save up to 60% on a wide selection of quality mattresses at every price. Plus, score a free adjustable base with a qualifying purchase. Hurry and
sleep on the players from this small African nation. There are several players on the South Sudan roster with